Okay, let's do. Where are you going?
I don't know.
All right. So let's talk for a little bit about writing and writing in the world as opposed to just writing for school. Often, writing for school is it seems like a task you got to do, something you got to get through. And we've talked about this a little bit. But what I want to do is think about how do we transform ourselves from writing in these task-based situations where we don't necessarily care about the writing, we care about the task or we care about the situation, but not the actual words we're putting on page. And how do we create something more meaningful? So hopefully you've watched part one of the video where I do a little play acting. Let's go to that video. This is going to be weird. It's going to be really meta because I'm going to look at this video I recorded and think about why I was doing that.
I guess I better look and see what I gotta do this week. That's week 4. I mean, it's not due until Monday, so maybe I could do it after work on Monday. It's not that much, right? I just gotta do a reading, watch a video, do a discussion. I can do that discussion right now. After reading blogs and watching that, I'm not reading that shit. You should have some interesting.
Okay, so this is pretty weird. You get to watch me watching me record a video for you. I gotta say, there's this weird thing from Wikipedia down here. I don't know if they thought I was part of QAnon when I was doing this video or what. I don't know why that appears. Anyway, I'm gonna click out of the video and talk a little bit about what I was doing there. So, as I've said before, I've been teaching for quite a while, and I know that one of the struggles people have in English 131 is learning how to write for themselves and their world rather than just writing for teachers and to fill assignments. As if, when a teacher gives you an assignment, there's nothing meaningful there other than whether or not all your words are spelled correctly. Students in English 131 in their first year of college often have that problem because they've been so used to writing according to standards and in order to get grades that they don't get in trouble in high school and junior high, that they haven't yet gotten to a point where they recognize the meaning and the power of writing for their own lives or for their own world. If you approach the assignments for this class in that way, where you're just getting it done on Monday at 7 p.m. before the 11 o'clock deadline or the 12 o'clock deadline, if you're just approaching this to get it done, you're not really getting out of this class what I hope that you're getting out of. And if you're not getting out what I hope that you're getting out of this class, you're not really learning the lessons of this class. And therefore, you're not even getting the real points that you need in this class to pass the class when you're doing that busy work in order to pass the class. I want you to move past that. And I want you to start to think more about why you write, how you write, when you write, for whom you write. I want you to think about the rhetorical situation of writing and how you can actually have an effect on your world. Now, is anybody in our class going to change the world with their writing? If we're thinking in terms of James Baldwin, or if we're thinking in terms of Donald Trump's speechwriters, or if we're thinking in terms of Dave Chappelle, an amazing comedian, the impact of our writing, me as an individual, as a professor at Henry Ford College, as a teacher, as a member of a community, my writing is probably not going to have as vast of an impact as James Baldwin. I'm pretty sure that that's a safe bet. I am not going to impact as many people as James Baldwin has. However, does that mean my writing doesn't change the world? Not at all. When I write, I affect people. And when I write, I affect situations. And when I write, I express my place within a given situation. if I take an assignment like writing number 2, and I just think of it as a school assignment that I got to get done because a teacher told me to, I'm missing out on a major part of what this assignment means. If I see in this assignment that it says rhetorical awareness, I've got to ask, what does that mean? And why does my professor want me to focus on that? What is rhetoric? Now, we've talked about it. You've done a couple of readings on it. It's been mentioned multiple times. If you're still not getting it, and believe me, I understand why you're not, it's a hard word. You need to go back and review. What does it mean to write with rhetorical awareness? How do you do that? Well, we can scroll up and look through the number of readings that we've had for this class, and if you do, you will find a reading called The Rhetorical Situation. And you click on that reading, and you go through, and you think about what it means to write within a rhetorical situation. And if that doesn't give it to you, then you can go to other resources to help you with the rhetorical situation, like Reinventing Invention or Writing One, Subject and Argument. We've had multiple resources. There is no reason right now to be writing this paper without an understanding of what it means to write rhetorically. Of course, if you still can't get it, there's always this little button up here. Send me a message. Say, I don't get what you mean. Can you point me to some more resources, or can we talk about it some more? For writing number 2, you will be writing a public letter to address some issue of public protest. It's a very straightforward assignment that's asking you to do some complex work. Your letter is going to be written to a public official or a letter to the editor of a publication. You will write that letter to publicize an issue regarding protest that you see as important. The letter you write will be written with the intent to persuade the individual to whom it's addressed and to persuade the larger public, the constituency around that individual. In order to develop and refine your letter, you need to think about the rhetorical situation of that letter. If you do what I did in the previous video, which is you search protest news story, and you come up with a few things to look at, like the latest news on protests from Political, and you flash through and you click on the first one because you're a student who's not really thinking about what you want to write about or why you want to write about it, and you click on this, and then you write some BS response to this without thinking about who you're writing or why you're writing or finding out who you should write to or how you should write. If that's what you do, you are not thinking about the rhetorical situation. You're not thinking about the rhetorical situation in Myanmar. You're not thinking about the rhetorical situation of this class. You're not thinking about your own rhetorical situation, about the things that matter to you and to other people. In order to write this letter well, in order to write anything well, you've got to think about that context, the exigency of the moment, the absolute call to you as a writer to say something. And you've got to think about who you are. What is your power? What is your reputation? What is your experience? What is your ethos as a writer? You've got to think about that. Because if you write the mayor of Myanmar, is that really even going to do anything? Is the mayor of Myanmar going to... There's not a mayor, by the way. It's a country. If you write that a leader in Myanmar, is that going to do anything? Is that going to have any effect? No. The person's not going to read your letter. You don't have the ethos that makes the person pay attention to you. If you write the protesters in Myanmar, and you ask them to protest stronger or to fight harder, is that going to do anything? No. You're not going to have any effect with that. You've got to think about who you are, who you're writing, and what your power is. This assignment is an assignment in rhetoric. Pay attention to your ethos, to the pathos, the ways that you appeal to the emotions of your readers, to the logos, the logic of your argument, the logic of your genre, the logic of your writing situation. You've got to pay attention to the exigency, what is calling you to this moment of writing, your purpose, the situation. Lots of things to pay attention to. You cannot simply pick up this assignment on Monday evening before it's due and try to scribble out a letter. Not if you're doing it for real. I'm not even worried about grades at this point. I'm worried about what it means to write in the world. You must meet genre expectations. What is a letter? We've had readings on that. If you don't know what that means, go back and look at the readings. Let's see. I'm sorry, they were in week 4. Read Taking Flight. Read Letters to My Nephew. Read my letters about writing to the public. Go read Writing Letters to Elected Officials, Writing Letters to the Editor. There's been a lot of stuff that you could look at to help you here. Let's go back to the assignment. If I can find the assignment, there it is. You must identify the specific official, the editor of the publication you're within its formatting. I had a student who was writing about protests happening in L.A., Los Angeles, sorry. And she was going to talk about what she thought should happen as a result of those protests. She doesn't live in Los Angeles. She doesn't know anybody who lives in Los Angeles. Why should anybody listen to what she has to say about Los Angeles? And this is not to say that you don't have power. You have a lot of power when you pick the situation where you have power. You've got to know who you're writing and why they should listen to you. Let's see, focus on issues of protest. You can't just write about Myanmar and why things should change there. You can't just write about human rights. You can't just write about labor issues or whatever it is that protest was centered on. You've got to write about protest. That's going to be a focus of your letter. It must be based around a central claim or thesis. Again, we've had resources on that. You've got to be trying to prove something here. You've got to know what you're trying to prove. And it must show that you are aware of the rhetorical situation and that you are using elements of that situation to help you develop your persuasive writing. If your letter does not meet the rhetorical situation, you are not doing this assignment. If your letter does not talk about protest, you're not doing this assignment. If your letter does not work as a letter, public letter, written to the larger public around that person you're writing, it does not do this assignment. It's a lot of warnings there, and I understand this lecture is following up last week's lecture where I talked in detail about this assignment, but I'm still seeing some of the same mistakes. And so what I want you really to do here is to think about what is the purpose of this assignment. More importantly, what is the purpose of your voice in the world? What do you want to say to people? Why should they listen to you? To whom are you going to say it, and how are you going to say it? Think about how you access power through your writing to change the world, because you can change the world. Maybe not like James Baldwin did, but maybe the way you will. Whatever part of the world you have an effect in, you can have an effect, and your writing gets you there. Keep working on this assignment. Keep thinking. Work through the details. Find something that matters to you and to your audience, and write to change the world.